had 3 elections, and it passed. It got beat the first 2 times, and then they passed it the 3rd time. We passed it.
Yeah.
It was interesting because all the liberals in town were against it because it was going to take up lakeshore frontage,
Yeah.
and they didn't like that.
Well, it's a beautiful building, and it's
Yeah, it
got
is.
to be something they're proud of. But now, today,
Well,
I think
and
it would have made a huge
well, the
economic impact.
the downtown was pretty much half or more of the buildings weren't used,
Yeah.
and so passing the convention center was going to revitalize the business downtown, and did.
Yeah.
But it was a battle. The president of the Madison Chamber asked me if I would come to work for the chamber and help them pass the referendum to build the building. It was interesting. There was probably 40 people in town that most people knew their names,
Yeah.
but they didn't have any relationship with each other. It took us 6 weeks to get those leaders from those different groups, like the firefighters and the police and the teachers and the FL-CIO and the chamber and, you know, all the different groups, to sit down around the table and talk about whether they were going to support or not support, and what were the pros and cons of building the Frank Lloyd Wright Convention Center. But boy, they didn't know each other, and they were really nervous about each other, and they didn't trust each other.
Yeah.
So it took us quite a while for having, I don't know, maybe 20 meetings before all these people in these different groups decided it was in everybody's interest to have this there and see if they couldn't pass it.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, Madison's a big enough town, so all these different groups had, the realtors had people that they lobbied for them, and you know, so there was probably 25 or 30 organizations, and you had to get all those people in a room and get comfortable enough with each other so that you could get a committee together that they'd all put people on to see if they couldn't pass this. But it wasn't any, in the beginning, it was touch and go about whether they were going to all agree to this. I mean, they all had a stake in it, but this was the first time that all the liberals and the conservatives and the moderates and the unions and the business people, that they really all were talking to each other. They knew who the people were, but they didn't really have any long-term trust relationships. And so we raised about $400,000 for money to knock and drop and put out literature and advertise and all that stuff. But that was way after we got them all agreeing that this was in all their interests and that they could trust enough the other people that they were willing to take it on. It showed you that the process was people, and that you were going to have some relationship, and you were going to have to be open with people, and you were going to have to be direct and answer their questions, and not play games with them. You know, it was really very interesting to see, you know, people who normally would view each other as, I'm not sure that I want to have a relationship with the AFL-CIO building trades, or that I want to have a relationship with John Matthews and the Madison teachers, or whoever. It was that was, I mean, that I think did more to change this community overall than probably anything in the last 25 or 30 years.